Hello everyone and happy Wednesday. Give everyone a minute to jump on here for our coffee break halfway through the week. Today is your lucky day where you get me twice in one day because I will be back here on the Facebook page tonight at 7 o'clock for our What's New, our little showcase of all the new stuff we've gotten in this week. And I'm not even sure what I'm going to find in my little bucket when I get home because Matt has been busy receiving stuff and is working on a few more orders today. So hello everyone and thank you for tuning in this morning. Here in Stouffville, the sun is shining, the weather is blissful, the birds are singing, and it is certainly a beautiful spring day here in Stouffville. I hope wherever you are, it is a lovely day and that you can get outside a little bit today and take in some fresh air. Now, we've got a bunch of people tuning in. Thank you and good morning, everyone. We have received a number of questions over the last couple of weeks about paper trimmers and blades and all of that kind of thing. So I thought I would take today's coffee break to just talk to you a little bit about paper trimmers, about the brands that we carry and why we carry them. Much like anything else, paper trimmers are probably one of your most used tools in paper crafting. Excuse me, you need them to crop photos, you need them to cut your paper, you need them to pretty much do any crafting project, excuse me, that you might be working on. So the key with paper trimmers is that you need to find one that you like, that works well for you. And I know some of them can be a little bit of an investment. So if you have a friend that has one, definitely ask if you can borrow it and try it out before you actually invest in an expensive paper trimmer. I also know, and I definitely am one of the guilty ones, where I have had the same paper trimmer for over 15 years, and it is very, very well loved, but I'm loath to give it up because I know exactly how it works. But if you are finding that your paper trimmer just isn't cutting straight anymore, or maybe you just feel like it's time for something new, or you have a purpose that your paper trimmer just isn't working for you, then maybe you'll consider some of these options. So in front of me, I have a couple of different trimmers here, and they do come in many different shapes and sizes. The two main brands that we carry here in the store are the tonic trimmers. We have both the Tim Holtz and just the regular tonic guillotine trimmers, and I'll go over those in just a second. And we carry the Fiskars brand. Fiskars is one of those brands that has been around for a long, long time. And what I love about both of these companies and why I keep bringing these two in and really nothing else is that these companies 100% stand behind their product. I have had customers who have incidences or even had incidences myself where something has gone wrong with a trimmer or something is broken, or heck, even sometimes we break it, we drop it, we pack it wrong, that kind of thing. And both of these companies have been absolutely fantastic in the customer service department, helping people get their trimmer back up and running, or even replacing it outright. So definitely these are two brands that I believe in wholeheartedly and feel like they are the best choice for the ladies in our community. I'm going to put this guy aside for right now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Fiskars. So some of these different styles you may recognize. So this one is an oldie. Definitely, one of those really basic starter models that I think many of us, if we started scrapbooking or crafting, again, in that 15 to 20 year range, This is one of those most common ones that I've seen a lot. Sometimes it's been purple, sometimes it's been a lighter gray, or it's this dark gray. But I think many of us still have at least one of these somewhere in our stash. There is also this model. And once again, I have seen it in a variety of colors. And as you saw in the packaging, the most current version of that one is white with the pretty flowers on the deck. Definitely, again, another great workhorse for your basic trimming. We have this style here, and we have this style here. This one has a bar for the blade, and I'll talk about that in just a second. There is also one more version, which I'll talk about that in a second as well. If you have trimmers like this, excuse me, and they have become well loved, you may have some difficulties with your blades. Now, you still can get replacement blades for these. You definitely can get replacement blades for these. But just from a troubleshooting standpoint, and I had a customer yesterday who was trying to buy replacement blades, and I knew I had the right one to recommend to her, but she said, you know what, they still just don't work well for me. Some of the things you may notice, though, is this piece here. Because we put all kinds of wear and tear, we push on it, we pull those blades out. This is just plastic. So it may be that over time, these pieces have stretched out and just aren't holding the blade well. And if you're picking it up and every time you use it, your blade falls out, then it could be that these guys have just stretched too far beyond their use. The other thing that might be a problem is you may have trouble sliding your blade. One thing you can try is taking your powder tool like this and just running it down the sides of your track just to kind of lubricate it a little bit. It could just be that it's drying out. It could be that you need to give it a good cleaning. So grab a baby wipe or a cloth and clean in these tracks. And also make sure that you clean out this track here where the blades run. So that's a great troubleshooting thing if your old Fiskars trimmers are not working the way you want it. And maybe it's Sunday and we're closed, or it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you just want to get finished that project. That's one thing that you can check. I guess I should rewind a little bit. One thing that is common to most paper trimmers, I call these the slide version of the paper trimmer as opposed to the guillotines, which are more of a chop. These are a slide paper trimmer. You're going to see a lot of commonalities, even though there are differences. So you have your main deck, as I call it, or base, which is where your paper is going to sit. You're going to have lots of great measurements, and you're going to have some extra guides on the deck to help you line up your paper with the proper measurements. Now, once again, this is an older style. As you get even just one generation newer, you can see that you've got more detailed measurements down to a 1/16 of an inch so that you can get more accurate cuts than you can with this guy. I find these rulers are a little bit tough because they only do 1/8 of an inch. And if you're doing really precise measurements, you definitely want something that has more detail in those measurements. The other thing, and you would be surprised how many people don't know this, is that all of these trimmers have a secret. They have an arm that pulls out so that you can do measurements up to at least 12 inches, often longer. So if you are cutting your 12 by 12 paper, you don't have to do the math. There is nothing worse than having your last sheet of paper, trying to do the math for the right measurement and making a mistake. Make sure you always pull out your arm so that you can measure accurately whatever measurement you are working on. And like I said, you would be surprised at how many people did not know that that arm exists when they first pick up their paper trimmer. So all of these different styles have an arm. Make sure that it is also pulled all the way out. If it's on a little bit of an angle, you're not going to get an accurate measurement. And the last thing to be careful of is use this little lip, which is at the top of all of these paper trimmers, to keep your paper straight. I'm just going to grab, oh, I've got a car, let's do this guy here. So just because he's colored, make sure when you put your paper in, you snug it right to the top. The same also applies to the bottom. I know some ladies who do prefer to keep their paper closer to them. So all of these trimmers have a lip on the bottom as well. I also know that left-handed ladies often like to turn it the other way so that their arm comes out to the right and they're using their left hand for the trimmer. All of these are totally acceptable uses. And yes, Luciana, the arm also helps you keep it straight because you're making sure you're going right out to the most accurate measurement. So regardless of what style of paper trimmer you have, those are all really awesome key functions of your trimmer. Make sure you use them. As you get to this particular style, you can see that they've got some standard sizes already marked out. So if you don't want to use the measurements, you can use these little tick marks to help you measure as well. What's next? So I was talking about how Fiskars really stands behind their machines. Luciana, what do I think of the trimmers with the scoring plate attached? I'll be totally honest, I have not used them very often. Because they're not a Fiskars brand, I really like to stay with the Fiskars because I really do believe in the product. The one that I am most familiar with that have the scoring deck was a We Are Memory Keepers, and the few customers that I had that used them said that the measurements were not accurate. Now that could be different by batch, that could be a whole bunch of different things. I just like having a separate scoreboard. I know it's a separate tool, but I find that the measurements on my scoreboard are a little bit more accurate, and I don't have to fuss about whether I'm getting it in the right spot. Hope that answers your question. When I get to blades, I will show you that there are scoring blades for these paper trimmers as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. So like I said, when it comes to the Fiskars company, they stand behind their product. I have had other friends and customers who have had the same challenge with their numbers coming off. All they did was they emailed Fiskars, and Fiskars sent them a brand new trimmer. I haven't gotten around to that. Again, I kind of, really love my Fiskars trimmer, and even if I got a new one, I don't know that I would switch it over. And these measurements are still good, so I'm still able to use my trimmer. But definitely, if you have a problem with stuff like this where your numbers are wearing off, don't start by getting a brand new trimmer. Start by calling Fiskars and seeing if they will help you replace that or fix that and get a new one out to you. They totally stand behind their product. Okay, gonna move along a little bit. There is actually a model of these trimmers that are between these two guys. And I'll talk about this guy in a second. The one that goes in the middle here is very similar to this one, but it actually has a wire that runs down this area here so that you can help line up your paper a little bit more accurately, see exactly where the blade is going to go, which is ideal for eyeballers like myself because you can't always see the track or know if you are getting it in the right spot. However, I don't carry that model because I have seen far too many people have issues with that wire fraying and breaking, and then the trimmer becomes a lot harder to use. Now, once again, Fiskars has been fantastic. These people have simply called or emailed, and this whole mechanism with the wire has been resent to them. It just snaps off and snaps back on. But when I've seen that issue time and time again, it's not something that I want to recommend to you. So the one we carry, or the primary one we carry, is this guy here, which is similar to my workhorse, and that is definitely the one that I believe in. Moving up the scale, this one is what I would call a bar slider, because there is a bar that runs right down here that holds your blade. This is where the reason for this is, so remember I was saying that sometimes these plastic things get stretched out. We have a real tendency to push kind of hard on these guys. This guy's not even moving. And I know I have had inaccurate cuts because I have kind of pushed my blade one way or the other just in the effort to get it through the paper. With this bar, you have a smooth, easy slide right up and down, and no matter how you push it, it's not going to move the blade. So if you are really, really keen on having smooth, accurate cuts, then the bar trimmer is probably your better bet. The other thing just to note is that the bar opens the other way. So it just might be a bit of a learning curve to get that straight. I see Dana says that she loves her wired version. And that's what I said off the top. If you have one that you love, then don't listen to me. Stick with the one that you love. I'm just sharing my experience and things I've seen from other customers. But Dana, I'm glad that you love yours. I'm glad that the wire works well for you. And again, please know that if anything happens with that wire, you can just contact Fiskars and they will make it right. So that is that on those paper trimmers. Now, once you've started using your brand new trimmer for a while, the thing that's going to happen is that your blades are going to start to wear out. It's just a natural function of how these guys work. And it's just one of those things. So it's a good thing that they do have replacement blades for your trimmers. Now the mystery then comes in, well, what blade do I get? And it can be very deceiving, because a lot of people go by how the blade looks, and Ellen's saying she goes crazy when the trimmer does not have both measurements in inches and centimeters. Absolutely, I understand where you are coming from. That is definitely a personal preference. This little gray guy actually does have both centimeters and inches. I will say that it's not been, at least in the Fiskars family, that's not something that's very common. But since most of the measurements that I do are done in inches, it's not something I worry too much about. But Ellen, if you have trouble finding a trimmer that you like, then I will definitely help you find things like that. Margaret is saying that she's already contacted Fiskars and they're providing a replacement for her. So that's fantastic. All right, so the mystery is, depending on what trimmer, what blade do you need to get to replace it? And once again, I highly recommend that you do not go by how the blade looks. These are both the same blades. One has a low profile handle. One has a high profile handle. They will both fit in my trimmer. So how then do you know what blade to get? This is the information that you need. It's the blade style. How do you know what that blade style is? Well, if you have a brand new trimmer, it tells you right on the package. So make sure you take that and you take your trimmer, you flip it over, you write it in a Sharpie on the back side so that you always know that you need blade style I. But in the newer, and I would say, let's see if this one even has it. I don't think this one does. So in my 15-year-old, 16-year-old trimmer, it does not say this, but on newer models, if you look carefully, and you do have to look carefully because it is just embossed in the plastic. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. It says blade style K. So that way you always know what blade style. There. Can you see that there? Blade style K. So when you go to the store or to our website, you want blade style K. That's fantastic. That's a great place to start. So the K goes with the bar, and you can tell that also from looking at it. But then it gets down to the I's and the J's because they all start to look the same. The G's, sorry, and I think I said J's, but I mean G. The G is for the really old style. So this really old style has just a single track for your blade to run in. So your G blade is perfect for your old style. The most common ones, and most of these ones here, and I think this one says it as well. Let me make sure I get it the right way. This is blade style I. And that, I will tell you 100%, is the most common blade that we have for our Fiskars paper trimmers. But then once again, you have choices, and I did not bring one up, but you have, again, that high profile handle. If you really like having something to hold on to, get the high profile. If you like the lower profile because it's going to fit in your travel bag or your storage bag a little bit easier, then get the low profile. Black. I was telling you a little bit earlier, there is a scoring blade that you can swap out. So take your blade out, you can put the black one in. This one is a scoring blade. So if you look at these blades, let me see if I can. So a regular cutting blade is triangular in shape. You've got cutting surfaces on both sides of that triangle. The black blade, and I'm not going to be able to show it without taking it out of the package, it's more of a semicircle. So it is rounded and ideal for scoring. However, the number one caution I will say is if you're using the scoring blade in your trimmer, don't press hard. Even though that blade is rounded, it can still punch through your paper. So you want to be really light and then build up your pressure ever so much until you get the score line that you want. I will say I am usually too fast and in too much of a hurry that I find my scoring blade punches through too often, which is another reason why I prefer my scoreboard and my proper scoring tool to scoring with my trimmer. All right, the third thing to be aware of, and I thought I had grabbed one, but I don't see it here in my pile, is with the I style, you can also get blades that are titanium. They will last longer than a normal blade, and they are also, again, good if you are cutting, say, the Carta Bella paper that has a little bit heavier weight and a little bit more texture to it, versus, say, you are cutting Kaisercraft paper, which is a little bit thinner. It's just a personal choice. I tend to go with the titanium simply because my trimmers get what I call industrial use. But that's a personal choice. If you find that your blades are running out really fast, you may want to upgrade to the titanium blades. Okay, another couple of tips and tricks on your blades. So remember I said that your blade is a triangle. I'm sorry, I'm not even centered. That's crazy. Your blade is a triangle. But the next time you're cutting paper, I want you to pay attention to how you cut. I am a bottom-up kind of person. I tend to go up, cut my paper, then I return it to the bottom of the trimmer, put my next paper in or rotate it, and cut up again. That's just my style. Some people like to pull down. Some people go in both directions. So just be conscious the next time you cut your paper as to what direction you go. Because one thing you can do to extend the life of your blade, if you are a bottom-up girl like me, that means only one side of the blade is being used. So what I try to do, and I haven't done it on this one, but I'll take a Sharpie and I'll put like a number 1 or a little dot here on this side so that once it starts to get dull, before I go and switch the blade, I just take it out, flip it over, and put it back in. Excuse me. Because I now have this second side of the blade that hasn't even been touched. So that's always a great way to extend the life of your blade before you have to replace it. In case you were not paying attention, if you see on my little trimmer here, and I believe most of the newer ones are like this, there is a little notch here in the plastic. It's very subtle, but you can see there's a little notch right here. that is exactly for dropping in your blade to load it into your trimmer. That way you're not pushing, you're not stretching, you're not pulling on that plastic. It just goes right in that little notch and then pulls out. And then it should lock in. You shouldn't have too much trouble about your blade coming out once it's in that track. And just to go back half a step, I was saying that on this gray one that is a single track, these ones are called triple track. And that's because, again, if you look closely, there is actually two little notches. So that's why I don't know why it's called triple, but I see two little notches that help grab and hold. I guess because there's a track here, the main track, and then a track over here on the plastic that hold that blade in place. Ellen, that's not a mistake. You can absolutely only use your trimmer in one direction. Just remember to turn your blade around, and then that way it gives you a little bit longer life. Another hack, another trick, if you again are late night crafting, your blade is not working really well, you need to give it a temporary sharpen. Tinfoil is your best friend. This trick also works on punches and even dies if you find they're not cutting cleanly. You can use tinfoil to temporarily sharpen your blade. Now I tend to take a strip and then fold it over a couple times just so I've got a little bit more weight to it. Smooth it out. And then I can put it in my trimmer. And again, don't worry too much if it does this little grabby bit, but you're just giving your blade a little extra sharpen to get it that extra distance that you need to get it. I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about push trimmers. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them here in the comments or email me at customerservice@craftersworkshop.ca. The last thing I will say, and I think I said it off the top too, is make sure this track is clear. And you can see mine's not super clear. I've got little bits of fluff. Depending on what you are cutting, you will find that you get stuff in this track. I tend to use a push pin or just something with a sharp end to get all those little bits out. And after, I've been using it a while, I'll take a little baby wipe as well, just to give it a good clean and make sure it is sliding smoothly. You don't want to have to fight it. And like I said, with this guy here, I'm already fighting it, so I'm going to have to oh, this one flips that way too. Not really sure. That also could be an indication that there's an incorrect blade in here. You should never ever have to fight your blade. Thank you for your thanks, ladies, but I'm not done yet. I've got something else to show you. So that's push trimmers. They definitely are your easiest, fastest, most portable type of trimmer that you can have. And I really do think every single one of us probably has at least one, if not more than one of these tools in our toolboxes. But the other trimmers that I like to use are my guillotine trimmers. Let me just get my blades out of the way here. We have two different sizes of the guillotine trimmers here in the store. There is also a smaller one, and there is also one that has a full 12-inch deck to it. But I find these are the most common, most versatile sizes that you may ever want to use. So the nice thing about these guillotine trimmers is that you never ever have to replace the blade. The blade is self-sharpening every single time you use it. It is also very safety conscious. It's got a plastic guide here that you are meant to use to hold your paper in place so that you don't hurt yourself. I once at a Creativation was lucky enough to be front row center as Tim Holtz himself was demonstrating this tool, and he said, if you do it and you go like this, that's a choice. If you grab your trimmer like this, that's a choice. Just make sure you're putting your hands in the right spot, and you should never have an accident. So these are beautiful. They are self-sharpening. They are so easy to use. I use them I use this guy predominantly when I am cutting 5, 6, 8 sheets of paper at a time. So maybe I am prepping for a class or doing something again where I'm doing lots of cuts. My Tonic 12-inch trimmer is amazing for that. It is also ideal if you like to cut a lot of chipboard or really heavy materials, even balsa wood we have cut with this particular trimmer. So this is 100% your workhorse. Other features to it, and I tend to be lazy on this fact. This is the end. There is an arm and there is a handle that has a hiding place right underneath, and it's even marked for you so you know where they go. So the handle simply pushes on the end, which I know you can't see. It just pushes on the end here, so you've got a nice safe handle to be working with. And once again, if you are working with 12 by 12 or larger, your arm, just the little foot flips out. There's a little slot right here where this just slides right in. And away you go. To Alan's point, this one has centimeters as well as inches, both here on the middle measure as well as on the top. So you've got great measurements, whether you're doing European projects or American projects, you've got all those measurements you need. It's got the little mini grid lines to help you line things up. The only challenge that I personally find with this trimmer is that I'm going to call it the fold. That's not the right word. The break between the main platform and the arm is right at the 6-inch mark. So I do find sometimes I have difficulty getting that 6-inch measurement perfect, but I'm usually not too much of a perfectionist on that, so I don't worry too much. The 6-inch mark is right at the end of that black ruler and over like half a hair. So that is your big trimmer. The 8.5-inch trimmer, I use this baby all the time. Not only can, again, you do multiple layers of paper easily because it just chops and cuts right through. It goes right to that 6-inch measurement, so I rarely have to go, beyond that. There is no arm with the 8.5-inch trimmer. It is primarily meant for card making, for cropping your photos, for all of those smaller things that you are not using 12 by 12 for. Once again, you've got your plastic guide, you've got your handle. I love this guy, and the thing I really love about this is how fine a little thread of paper. So sometimes, and you may have seen, I think it was Monday when I was trimming out 3 by 4 pocket cards. I missed a little bit, and so I really wanted to get that little sliver. So I can go over here and I can just get the finest sliver of a trim really easily. I probably would not be able to get anything that detailed on my slide trimmer. So the guillotine is perfect for that. Again, the only downside to this is if I am starting with a fresh sheet of 12 by 12, I do have to start on my slide trimmer to get it into a size that it will fit in these guillotine trimmers. Like Fiskars, Tonic 100% stands behind their product. I once had a customer, and I can't remember now if it was the small one or the large one. She accidentally dropped her trimmer and a big chunk of the blade came out, like it was damaged, so she was never ever getting clean cuts anymore. They just sent her a whole new arm. The arm with the blade, they sent it to her. You just unscrew it, screw it back in, and it was good as new. No questions asked, no extra charges. They took care of her in an amazing way. So hopefully that answers a few questions that many of you have had over the last weeks and even years about paper trimmers. Whenever you are in doubt, please don't hesitate to ask first, especially with the blades. Ask first before you buy. And the best way you can help me with that is send me a picture of your paper trimmer, because I can generally tell. I'm familiar enough with all the different brands or all the different models of the Fiskars trimmers that I can help you find the blade style, even if it's not listed on the back. So remember, you can look under, you can see that it's listed on the back here. If you're having trouble seeing it, again, then take a Sharpie or your label maker or something and put something bigger so that you can see it and remember it time and time again. But that's probably the hardest thing, is just remembering what style of blade that you want or need for your trimmer to make sure it is working perfectly. So again, please don't hesitate to ask first. We're here to help. I think I have talked enough. My mouth is dry. I need some more water, and I think I've left you with lots of great tips. So once again, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, send me an email. I will get back to you. It is now just after 11:30. That means we are 7.5 hours away from what's new tonight. So come back here tonight at 7 o'clock. I've got some really fun stuff to show you. And I know Matt's working on more fun stuff for me to show you, so we'll have a nice full load there. And then tomorrow we're back at 11 for our next coffee break. And I've already got some plans for Friday's crafty coffee break as well. So have a fantastic Wednesday. Go enjoy the beautiful sunshine, and we will talk to you all soon. Take good care, everyone.